Come stop and take a trip down on my block where you see hidden potential, young minds sharper than pencil, and ain't afraid to speak their mind if they got something against you. We standing with you, we tackle issues like civic pride. Hate will cease to exist, let's put our differences aside. From my side to your side, from Dutchtown to South Side, from Penrose to North Side, from Benton Park to Old North, the West End to West Side. We blessed when we step out, we stand down, rise up, stand together, wise up.
This is StitchCast Studio, produced by St. Louis Story Stitchers in St. Louis, Missouri.
This program is a special edition of StitchCast Studio called The Why of My City, and is funded by Missouri Humanities Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act. Funding for this grant is provided by the CARES Act and the National Endowment for the Humanities. They say who that, but you already knew that. That be them story stitches, story stitches, story stitches, story stitches, story stitches. Awesome sauce with gravy. My name is Ntegrity. This is an awesome time we're having this morning. This is a special StitchCast Studio podcast. We got some dope guests. We got some monarchs in the house. We're gonna take a second and go around and have you guys introduce the world to your awesomeness, if you don't mind, starting with Timothy to my left.
My name is Timothy. I go by Who Is Timothy. I do a variety of things, but mostly being a producer and an engineer. And then I'm an artist as well. Musician, multi-instrumentalist, and things of that nature.
Everything in the above, as well as an amazing father, all that good stuff. You just welcomed the new baby into the world, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Fatherhood is amazing. And then we have the amazing Finster to my right.
Hey, what's going on?
Care to introduce the world to your awesomeness?
Okay. Hey, world. I have some awesomeness with some gravy, side of rice.
You know, some chicken.
Yeah, you know. No, but I'm Finster from Authentic Marketing and Promotions, Camp St. Louis, everywhere. What I do is music, period. Market, period. Promotion, period.
All of that good stuff, man. I met Finster a while ago, man, on a tour we were doing for the Extreme Institute. And I didn't know who he was, but I can tell by the respect everybody had for him around me. I'm like, this dude's important. I want to know who he is. So grateful that you guys were able to be here, man. This is a special edition of our StitchCast Studio. We're going to be talking about the richness of music here in St. Louis, man. The music, like anytime you go to an open mic here, anytime you go to any type of event that's just the raw talent of our city, you can just feel the richness in the environment. And I think that our city, you know, we have so much to offer. I mean, not even just hip hop, you know, even though, you know, most my genre is hip hop. And I know, Timothy, you dib and dab with hip hop here and there. But like even just across the spectrum, you know what I mean? We have so much richness here. So based on you guys' experience from just being in St. Louis, being very active in the music scene, starting with whoever want to take the question, where do you think St. Louis musicians and artists draw their inspiration from?
The internet.
You mean like social media or?
The internet, like all of it, for real. I mean, social media, their friends and stuff, obviously, but everybody's YouTubing certain things. So if they hear something, it's more accessible nowadays than ever to ask Siri what something is and like to identify samples or whatever the case may be. You know, the internet's just a wealth of resources.
Yeah, no doubt. I completely agree. I mean, when you think about it, like the artists back in the day, they didn't have access to all that amazingness from the internet. So I guess the originality had to bleed through. I mean, sampling was happening, but you didn't have Siri, you didn't have Google as access that we have now.
Or Rhyme Zone.
Or Rhyme Zone. Shh, don't tell nobody. Artists is kept, man. You get major artists on major scales using Rhyme Zone. I mean, it's a dope resource, you know what I'm saying? What you think, Finster? Where you think artists from St. Louis draw their inspiration from?
Well, since I'm a little older, and
school us young bucks.
I could just give you a vast realm of from back then to now, and you already took care of the now already, Timothy. But a lot of it that I noticed from a lot of guys comes from camaraderie, from where we come from, and from back in the day when everybody didn't have real internet. They had dial-up, maybe.
AOL.
Right,
Take
AOL.
So long.
Yeah, man. And
what's up?
It was, back then, we used to go around. It was like the frontier, the final frontier, to be exact.
Yeah.
And we used to go around and hang out at spots and hang out and see who was rapping, just to see what they were rapping about.
Yeah.
You know, and it got to a point, it wasn't always about battling, it was more about displaying the talent.
Yeah.
And from that point, it was, you learn more about other people, and you learn more that you heard about people's techniques, and you heard this guy was super crazy when it came to freestyles, or this dude pen was ill. You know? Yeah. And it went from there to open mics, to performing, to a certain degree with performances that kind of came out and kind of flourished in certain parts of the city more than others. And of course, the open mic started. Yeah. You know, me being, you know, the founder of High Point. Yeah. You founded that? Yeah.
I'm learning so much about Finster every day, yo. Like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? Wow. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I remember I used to hear that on the radio. High Point Cafe every Monday. We do it live on 9-5. Right. You remember that?
A little bit, yeah.
So, yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, basically, it pretty much started from kind of like an impromptu Monday nights at High Point. To where Haran, his group, he had a group called Fat Trash, crazy name. And
that is a crazy name.
Yeah. There was only two of them. And him, who else was with us? My crew was with us, Ruckus crew was with us. And we all just, you know, hung out. He just came up there and it was, you know, a few guys performing or whatever. But my mind started turning a different way when I started looking at the ambiance of the room. And it turned into, yo, we could turn this into like some real like hip hop stuff right here. Because everybody that was there pretty much was in the community at the time. Yeah. And some people were new to the community, so it was a good melting pot on learning different artists, or, you know, seeing people rap and you know, conveying their lyrics like they were. So that turned into the High Point after about a month or so, because I was like, we ain't got nobody hosting. Right. And then I host DJ K9, and it was DJ Expo. And Expo had a really, really, really bad accident the next week. And he couldn't come up there to DJ, so it was K9 by itself. But then that's when Charlie Chan was called. Soprano. He got called in. And me and Charlie and my crew and his crew, we all used to bounce around doing Monday nights at certain spots. And that started kind of like our thing. And then we were at, you know, other no-name spots. And then one spot that we actually started garnering a lot more steam was Cicero's at the time.
Cicero's, okay. Yeah. That's on Delmar Loop, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, RIP to that.
You know.
And then after that, that got shut down, and then we just went bouncing around, just doing regular stuff. And then that night came up. Yeah. And when Charlie showed up, when we was there, we all looked at each other like it's about to pop off. And from that night, we soared. That was before even before Radio 1 was in town. Wow. So by February, Riverfront Times came and did an article on us, and they put us on the front page. And when that came out Wednesday, that next Monday, we were at capacity. Wow. We were at capacity. And that turned into a whole different thing. So I formulated the High Point Cafe and freestyle. Oh, wow. Yeah. So I was kind of using my marketing, and even though I wasn't fully in the marketing then. Yeah, it was blossoming. I was using my brain to kind of figure out what could I do to make something stick in people's brain, but also make them understand the brand and everything at that time. Yeah. And that's where I came up with the High Point Cafe every Monday.
Man, look, I remember that. I used to hear it on the radio all the time. And when you talk about like seeing lyricists and artists who had a dope pen game, do you think like a lot of the battle rappers, like on the battle rap scene, since we're talking about the richness of St. Louis, we can't leave out the battle rap. Do you think a lot of the battle raps, the rappers, like who has the big names right now, kind of blossomed from that? Or did you see anybody who were kind of sharpening their gift during that time at the High Point Cafe?
Definitely.
Who can you say for sure?
Young Ill, number one.
Okay.
And then who else came through there? Young Ill, Big Will, Tefco.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope.
All those guys. I'm trying to think. Was Verb there?
Okay.
Verb did radio with us a few times.
That was
dope. So he came in about the time everybody started when radio came in the city.
Yeah.
When Radio 1 came in, and he jumped in there, and then Holla came through. I'm trying to think of everybody's name.
Wow.
Oops, of course.
Oops, yep.
Yeah. Oops. I
Oops.
still remember Oops like first time at the High Point, because he came to the High Point and he was new. And he was a South Sider like us, but he had Oops cutting his hair. Like from the side all the way to the back. And everybody was like, oops.
Hey, that's marketing.
And he got on the mic and he spazzed.
Man.
He spazzed.
I don't think a lot of people, well, I know we definitely made our dent in the game, people understanding that St. Louis does have a very thriving battle rap scene. You know what I mean? When you think about, the Smash and even, what's the one with the guy that T-Dub was on a lot? The guy with the Juicilla, is that his name? Juicilla? He's the one that did the battle rap with Street Status. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
They got some big names out there, man. Like, I seen some dope battle raps, like, and these are St. Louis artists. I'm talking about ripping people to shreds, you know what I mean? So I think that's definitely a part of our culture. And who knows, most of it blossomed from the High Point Cafe. I didn't even know Fencer started that. Thank you for stopping through, being a part of the combo. E, you want to introduce yourself to the world?
Yep, I'm Emeara, Program Director at Story Stitchers. Pleasure to be here.
She's going to say it lightly, but she's an artist, engineer, producer, entrepreneur. Me and Timothy was just talking. She's a shoehead as well. So thank you for being a part of the conversation, E.
Sure, thank you.
Just thinking about like the music industry in its totality as a whole, and you look at people like, I use Master P for an example, how he took his record label and he was able to grow that into a probably billion-dollar empire. What would it take for artists here in St. Louis, Timothy, and I know you work with a lot of artists as well, just on the instrumentation standpoint and producing and mastering, what would it take for St. Louis artists to get that camaraderie to even put out records at that level? You know what I mean? How Master P, he had like 8 different records out at one time. You know what I mean? If not more. So what would it take for St. Louis to have that camaraderie to put out a record, or even have a record exec to do that? What do you think? And everybody can chime in on that question.
I mean, obviously, my default answer nowadays in most capacities is going to be the internet, because it's making most of the stuff happen. However, I know just from, the limited knowledge I have of Master P's upcoming, like he made his first $1 million off of a few different things, but one of the main things was selling like actual CDs out of his trunk. So the actual person-to-person interaction you have when you sell something physical is way different than when you do buy it offline. So I think if people actually have the more face-to-face interaction, and people actually understand what they're selling more instead of just pushing out a single and streaming it, I think that's going to help catapult people. Actually, there was Ryan Leslie. You guys familiar with him?
I love Ryan Leslie.
So Ryan Leslie did a project, which, he's a Hartford grad and a whole bunch of other stuff, but he did a project that the actual sales was only like 10,000, but he made $1 million off of the fact that he actually was connected very well with his fan base through Superphone, which is an app he made or whatever. But it just goes to show that depending on what you upsell, whether it be events, tickets, whatever it is that you end up monetizing, that's really how you catapult yourself to the next level, is by monetizing what you have, and then furthering to go on and marketing it to where it appears bigger and then grows bigger to what you're projecting. And Master P had that. He had the streets, and then he had people. Also, I'll say Master P specifically was really good about his street team stuff. Yeah. Because he used to send, I was working at one studio and we got a whole bunch of, I didn't even know No Limit was still doing stuff. It's back when Romeo was trying to be more involved musically. But they sent like this whole box of just free like promo and stickers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's not a lot of people taking the time and capital to invest in the actual physical marketing. So it kind of comes back to, if people were to take the internet influence and then tie it in with the physical capacity of humanity, that, you know, you feel a sticker and then you recognize this is a brand, and you can connect with it visually, and then other people see it. I think that for the artists that I do know that have more of a buzz nationally from St. Louis, they do pretty good at having that, to where, you know, I know multiple people that have their hats or that have certain physical things.
It's funny that you say that, and Finster, I'm gonna move to you next. I remember I was out with my brother and we were getting something to eat, and we were sitting on the parking lot of this club, and I happened to look over and I see this guy putting flyers on cars, and I looked a little further, and it was Finster, and I say, "What's up, Finster?" And the crazy thing is, you don't see people, you know, putting their brand out there anymore. I remember back in the day, Tide Tight. You remember Tide Tight? You used to see Tide Tight symbols on everything. You on mailboxes, cars. You walk in stores and they're on the placard board. You know what I mean? The cork board. Like, you used to see them everywhere. And I think that is somewhat of a dying art. People feel like maybe you can put a flyer out on Facebook and think that your event is gonna pop or your album is gonna sell. And Finster, you can probably attest to this. It takes a lot more than that, right?
Yeah. To answer your question, and to start, is the things that the people need to make them flourish. Well, two things he mentioned, Timothy already mentioned, was capital, number one.
Yeah.
The other one is infrastructure. And then the last one is discipline. That's going to be the thing, because I've dealt, of course, with many labels, with many artists, with many record execs. And when it comes down to it, the bare bones of it is those three things, because the infrastructure, meaning the people that have the knowledge to move and are plan accordingly and to execute. The capital means, of course, you got to be able to have the money, the backing, the investment to push everything that you're dreaming. Yeah. Turn that dream into reality. It's gonna take the discipline to get all that stuff to go forward. Yeah.
That's good, man. Like, I think discipline is probably the one of the, if not the most important component, because so you can commit to making the album or commit to launching a project or commit to creating something great. But that same attitude that you had when you committed to that is the same attitude that you gotta have to continue to push forward, because you might wake up tomorrow and you don't feel like, you know what I mean, working on some new schemes for your design, or you don't feel like breaking out your notepad on your phone and writing to a beat that you know has been sitting in your phone for a while. But that same attitude and that commitment that you made, that same attitude you had when you first originally made that commitment, you gotta keep it throughout, you know what I mean? Emeara, you're an artist. Like, whenever you're experiencing something like writer's block, or if you just don't feel like it, but you know you gotta meet a deadline, what do you do to help you stay in the mind state to say, no matter how I feel, no matter what my emotions are telling me, how do you get out of that to continue to push forward to get the project completed?
Yeah, well, recently I just kind of figured out that once I write something in my planner, then I'm more likely to do it. Like, once I write it down, instead of just having it in my mind and saying like, oh, I'm gonna do this at this time, you know, if I write it down, then it'll force me, you know, to actually like follow through and do it. Like even if it's just like practicing my guitar, like writing that down, even if it's not that day, the next morning, it's like I'm on it, because it's like I wrote this down and I was supposed to do it, but I didn't do it. So I'm gonna do it right now. Like, you know, that type of thing. So for me, that's kind of how I've, you know, prioritized my time, and how I've kind of, you know, sat down and really analyzed, you know, what it is that I need to put time into, you know. And like you said, if you make a commitment, especially if you put it out on social media, that you finna drop an album, or you finna, you know, drop a single, or I'm gonna drop this rap video, like, it's like, you gotta do that.
It's out there
like now. You can't, ain't no ain't no going back. You know what I'm saying? Unless it's like some for real technical difficulties, like if something went bad with the distribution or something. But other than that, it's like you ain't got no excuses, to be honest.
I'm
so,
telling you, man.
Yeah.
I've seen it time and time again where artists will say, you know what I mean, my release date is this. And then, you know, you get the infamous, well, things happen. I had to push the release date back. And you wonder how that looks and how that appears to your fan base. You know what I mean? Especially if they were considering getting that music or that project or that product or whatever you're going to put out. Do you lose valuable fans or do you lose valuable market share? You know what I mean? It's a tough situation to be in. We're going to switch gears a little bit.
Actually, real quick before you do, I know because I think anytime you bring up, especially in this type of environment, Master P, like that's a very weird case study.
Yeah.
And not to go too much further, but like something that's like practical as far as what I've seen artists do that I work with. You know, Master P had a lot of stuff going on, but the entrepreneurial aspect was the main thing people overlook. And then also just his follow through. Like this man actually became an NBA player.
Yeah.
He played in the NBA. Like not too many people can say that and switch those type of industries.
Yeah.
But I say all that to say, you know, artists nowadays obviously struggle with capital and stuff. But because of, you know, yet again, the internet, you can have physical products without putting any money down. A client of mine via Teespring, I had an artist consultation with them, which I give, you know, free at the end of any bigger project that people do with me. And I told him about Teespring, and he converted 1,000 sales of a $20 T-shirt.
Wow.
From a design. So he only spent $20 for his personal T-shirt, because I said you may want to go ahead and buy one so people know it's an actual thing and you have pictures with it. But from there, you know, he made all his whole project money back from a physical product being sold, not the music, but it is to back the music.
Yeah.
And you know, that's one way. Yet again, like the internet is just people. Master P was making it work back in the day when we didn't have those resources. So I mean, nowadays, if people really don't make it work to some capacity, it's really just because they don't, they lack creativity, and then also the follow through to actually. You know, nowadays you can literally, the same way people rip templates for DAWs and things like that, you can rip people's templates of business people that work and artists.
Yep.
You know, especially if it's in your same genre, in your same city. If it worked for them, you can at least try it. You know?
can at least try it. I mean, if you don't try it, you'll never know if you will succeed.
But yeah, I just, when you said Master P, is like my, you know, brain was still running, trying to figure out.
The dude's dope though. Like he's got, like even now, he's got red beans and rice. He's got noodles. He's got noodles. He's got pancake syrup, pancakes.
Overpriced cheese.
Wrap snacks, right?
The wrap snacks, I think that's a part of the brand. I think Romeo may have started that. But just even the aspect, and since we still on Master P, I want to ask this question to Finster, being in the game for so long and understanding the business. How important is it for artists to understand the business side of the music industry? And does it contribute to their failure or success?
Well, I can give you a short answer for that. It depends on what they want to do, more or less. If you're an artist and you want to be an artist, leave it at that. Leave all that other stuff to somebody else that you can depend on and that you can trust to move from a, I guess, a administrative capacity to help you with that, because a lot of times you get bogged down when you have too many hats on.
Yeah.
You get bogged down because if you want to mix and master and produce and write and promote and market and then get out there in the streets, that's fine. That's fine. But understand the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that you can do all of those things, but something is going to be a weak link in that chain.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. So for me, what I've learned in my years is just if you have a lane that you can rock in, you kill that lane.
That's good.
You know, and your what you call, I would say, your side hobbies.
Yeah.
You know, that you can be like, they entertain you. If they are entertaining to you and they don't make you work, it's more out of the love and it's not like working, you can handle those things. But when you have to do one job, two job, career.
Yeah.
It becomes a headache in the long run, because you have to keep switching gears in your head. And some people can do most of these things.
Yeah.
But you got to understand the timeline you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And you got to realize that somebody else could be helping you.
What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's time right now for our Pick the City Up Art Interlude, featuring the original song, written, recorded, and produced by Ntegrity and KP Dennis, titled What's Your Why?
Be yourself, cause the world is only one of you. Don't talk it, walk it, do what you wanna do. I love the life I lead, on everything is fine, but we don't know what we are until we find out why.
For your family, for your grind, for your sanity, for your mind, for your city, for your life, for your life.
True religion, new decision, 2020, see who giving. Ain't no competition, we St. Louis story stitching. Surviving through the system, using rhythm, saving lives. Let go your ego, just be humble, homie, take advice. I'ma make a good life for myself, try to help somebody else. Gotta get out of this prison of poverty, get a grind, try to build some wealth. I'm loving some meals, so happy, I'm telling them why. Ain't nobody can starve unless they be up in the sky. And I gotta be useful, be fruitful, and multiply. The why of my city, I never gonna let them divide. We fly, better catch that drip, double do zigzags, have a boss like that, it is so rough. You can join in the fan club, you can stand up, but you fall back, wait for it blow up. Everybody wanna ball like a big dog, this is it, y'all, watch for the pitfall. Get the squad up, let me make a quick call. I ain't running, I'ma walk up and get them all. Be yourself, cause the world is only one of you. Don't talk it, walk it, do what you wanna do. I love the life I lead, on everything is fine, but we don't know what we are until we find out why.
For your family, for your grind, for your sanity, for your mind, for your city, for your life, for your life. They say who that, but you already knew that. That be them story stitches, stitching words together so clever. We paint a vivid picture. We more than Chuck Berry, sweetie pies, and red fox. More than fitted caps and cardinal birds on your red socks. Come stop and take a trip down on my block, where you see hidden potential, young minds sharper than Ginsu, and ain't afraid to speak their mind if they got something against you. We standing with you, we tackle issues like civic pride. Hate will cease to exist, let's put our differences aside. From my side to your side, from Dutchtown to South Side, from Penrose to North Side, from Benton Park to Old North, the West End to West Side. We blessed when we step out, we stand down, rise up, stand together, wise up.
Be yourself, cause the world is only one of you. Don't talk it, walk it, do what you wanna do. I love the life I lead, on everything is fine, but we don't know what we are until we find out why.
For your family, for your grind, for your sanity, for your mind, for your city, for your life, for your life.
That's good. Timothy, you probably know this for sure. Like, you do a lot, man, from videography to mixing to mastering to editing to instrumentation. You sing. And one wise person said, if you do what you love for a living, it's like you never work a day in your life. You know what I mean? So does it ever feel like that you're working, or does it just feel like you're just doing what you love to do?
Nah, it's work sometimes. So, I mean, I'm blessed to, coming off of, quarantine and stuff. My studio's pretty much been at capacity anytime I'm available personally to be booked. And then the other engineers, people are booking out too. But I say that coming off of a 16-hour day yesterday, actually like 16 real hours working with clients nonstop. It's definitely a job, but I think with that comes knowing how to be efficient. That's something that people overlook, because when you're emotionally tied to enjoying what you do, you can spend hours on it and not care. But if you actually quantify, that's kind of going back to what you were talking about, infrastructure and systems. If you look at your time as, a return on investment and actually calculate how much time am I putting into this? Like when I'm developing a new skill, like the video stuff. I just sold my first my first big package was like I think $1,500 or so, which is a lot to like sell to independent artists, right? But this is my first like major, you know, music video I'm personally doing and not using anybody else. So just by even doing that, like I've put a specific amount of hours into researching each dynamic, and I just came out for the whole last year, the campaign of doing one song. So last year, I'll make this short, but I was
gonna say, talk a little bit about that. You released one song every month for the whole year, right?
Right, and it was like self-produced, meaning like everything, every instrument from the ground up, no samples, different genres, like from actual R&B to like actual post-hardcore metal. And I just kind of, more so just show off what I could do, and then I was still producing for other people, you know, because I do it for a living and playing out as a living. So, I mean, that took a lot of planning and follow through. And I think I spent like $23,000 on the whole thing. But, you know, that's essentially the same amount some people spend for like a 2-year college degree. So throughout that process, I learned what it need, you know, what people as artists need on that side.
It's the tuition you pay for learning.
And then, you know, I picked up a lot of resources, and just from doing that project, I already made my money back from people that seen my work and then hired me like to do the same thing for them. I would say too, the 10,000 hour rule, it's not the rule you have to abide by, but I think in most industries, it kind of gives you a stamp of approval regardless if you went to school for it. So I think anything that when you talk about outsourcing, if you're an artist and serious, you need to outsource anything that you're not close to that 10,000 rule on. So even on things that I do for clients, I just did a reggaeton album for this guy, and that's not, I don't do it all the time. You know, I don't have 10,000 hours reggaeton. I've only done one other album when I was in Texas. So I sent it to another DJ, and I had him, you know, he sent me back a list of which ones to speed up or slow down to fit the mix speeds of the DJs that are actually playing that type of music. So you got to draw on your resources of people that have done it more than you, and people that you look up to, but also people that have the results. You know, you don't want to be following people that inspire you, but they can't pay for their own project. You know what I mean? And they've been doing it for 20 years. Like, no offense, but I just don't want to be following those type of people.
That's good, man. And that actually leads me into my next question. I hear people say a lot, your net worth is in direct relation to your network, who you network with. And you talked about collaboration. And any of you guys can answer this question. How important is it for St. Louis artists to collaborate, even outside genre, you know, crossing genre? How important is it to contribute to the richness of the music here? Like, whenever you think about artists collaborating, if you got, like, even just thinking about one of the Monarch people from St. Louis, Nelly, how he collaborated and did some country stuff. How important is that for our city to collaborate with artists, not just in your genre, but outside your genre, to continue to see things flourish?
I would say from a youth perspective, it's very important, like just from working in story stitchers, not even just like outside of the genre, but with different age groups, you know, learning from people who've been in the game longer than me, you know, just kind of seeing how they flow, how their workflow is, you know, that's a big thing, you know, for a young musician or a young artist to just kind of get to see that, you know, and know that there's not just this one way you have to do it, you know. Everybody kind of maneuvers different, you know, but it still works. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that kind of, I feel like in a way that helps us as young people kind of find ourselves and understand our position and our role in the music industry.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Anybody else?
I think I like what you said on that, and that comes down to networking, and everybody needs to do networking to a degree. The other thing is that from a local standpoint, like I feel like a lot of people have to learn who they are as an artist or as a person, so they can know how to convey to their audience or to, you know, to their cohorts or whoever they come around. You know what I mean? As long as they know who they are first, I think you will be better off with going to the world, because once you create an energy for yourself that is pure and it transcends like that, people gonna start coming to you regardless. You know, because if you go, like what you said about Nelly, Nelly and them had, that whole situation was almost like pulling teeth in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't the idea.
Gotcha.
Going in.
Yeah.
The idea going in was we're gonna be the St. Lunatics.
Right.
And it turned into, hey, no, you gotta do this. You gotta do this. And we all gonna push you.
Yeah.
So we all get behind that one artist in our camp. And everybody, all you gotta do is say these records, bro. All you gotta do is say these records. Everybody else back here gonna handle everything else.
Yep.
And we're gonna go from there. So from that part, the reason why I say that is because a lot of times people get social life and networking combined.
Yeah.
Because you can go out to every single rap producer party, meet and greet, whatever it is. If you're not bringing any value back, you're just being
social. Wow. That's good. That's real good. Yeah, just thinking about collaboration, like I've learned so much just from watching you online, watching your presence, even being around E and seeing how, you know, she's working hard to be better at playing bass and guitar, and just even being around you, Finster, from the first time I ever was like, I'm gonna try to put out a single. Who can I help? Who can I pick their brain? I called Finster. He's like, yeah, man, come through. He sat down at the office. He was honest with me. You know what I mean? And I think that's where, like, having a bunch of yes men around you, that can be to your demise. Because you thinking like you got a good product to put out. You thinking like this is the direction you need to go, and you don't consult those collaborations and even have consultations, like you said, with artists. Sometimes you can miss the mark. You know what I mean? Because you got people with all of this different knowledge around you who've been in different areas, been in different circles, and they've pulled knowledge in. It's great to be able to be like a sponge and absorb that. Like even these spaces right now where we have doing a podcast, when it goes out, you're gonna get a young artist or a young marketing person or a young instrumentalist who's gonna hear this and they're gonna soak it up. They're gonna get some seeds from it. You know what I mean? Because when you put that seed out there, you know, it finds soil and then it grows. You know what I mean? And just thinking about, like, even, I know you mentioned Radio 1, thinking about radio in our city, thinking about the DJs in our city. How important is it for artists to collaborate with those DJs, collaborate with the radio, even though streaming is doing its thing now? You've been on the scene a long time, Finster. How important is that radio aspect still? Does that still have an anchor?
Nope.
No? Okay.
No, but to a degree, here, the things you had to learn about radio is a portion of those radio employees are the gatekeepers to the industry per se.
Yeah.
So when you have, like, if you have your record and you want to take it to the radio station and have an actual meeting with them and say, this is my plan on my new single that's leading into my album in the next 6 months, they'll listen to all of that you said and then, okay, what you want from us?
Right.
Well, what do you think I want from you, y'all?
Right.
I need your support.
Please.
So that turns into, okay, let's try to support this artist, or we'll put them on Sunday, see what happens, and get a good response. Maybe we'll throw them in the mix show.
Yeah.
And then after mix show, you either sink or you swim. Ooh. So after mix show is where the real, like, line is, because the line is a huge border between being at the cusp of the industry itself from a industry standpoint, and just starting back over and spinning your wheels all over again.
I would say too, when it comes to like the whole radio thing, it kind of comes back to the real life aspect of like any DJ that's on the radio, but also actually at parties or actually playing records.
Right.
I mean, it's good to get them the records so they can play it in real life. As far as on the radio, radio is driven mostly off of marketing, and a lot of people's marketing is moving more online anyways. People, when it comes to even what you guys listen to, you know, unless if you have a rental and you don't, you know, you just want to listen to the radio, or if that's your preference, most people listen to, you know, Spotify or the things on their phone. And to get on like a Spotify curators list that Spotify owns is way more valuable nowadays than if they were to play your record on the hour, every hour on any local station, because it's not local and it gets to more fan base, and then the math's just there usually. You know, 250,000 streams is $1,000. And if you get on a curating playlist, even if your song is not great, just people scanning that play, or, you know, playing your song for 30 seconds, which is a play technically, it's gonna get you at least $1 million or $2 million. So just off of that, like, you're gonna get more return on investment. However, when it comes to the gatekeeper aspect that you were talking about, a lot of labels, because all their content on Spotify is owned by them, they have a percentage of Spotify. So now it's moving more to where Spotify is influenced heavily by those labels. So they're moving their influence on radio from just being on radio and controlling that and gatekeeping to being on those larger platforms, to where, you know, when they spend their budget on an artist, they can get some of it back immediately just off the streams, and then it also helps the project.
That's good. That's good.
You said exactly, that was the next part. That guy right there, Timothy, you're the guy. That's good. Exactly what I was going to say after that. But you fit the puzzle so perfectly on that. I appreciate that.
Great minds think alike. You guys spoke about streaming. So obviously that's where the industry is not even going there. It's there. You know what I mean? Should an artist really be focusing on trying to get on curated playlists? And when it comes to the streaming, should they be worried about trying to go gold or platinum? I know going platinum, I think, is 1.5 billion streams. Should that be the goal, or should the focus be developing the relationships with the label to probably get you on the playlist?
To be honest, from my experience, it's like hitting the lottery if you're going to be getting on one of the curated playlists. However, there's a lot of independent playlists that comes down to networking. If you were to inbox these people and say you have songs or music that matches, well, it's also something where you have to understand where your sound fits. Everybody wants to say, oh, I'm different than everybody else. That's not completely true, because somebody's going to put you in a category. And even sonically, we have apps now where if you play your song, it'll go through and analyze it from how fast it is, what type of rhythms are in it, the tonality qualities, and it'll compare it to another song to where, you know, if you need a mix reference or if you need a category to be put in, you have to be aware of that, because different markets have different exposure, obviously, so you can scale differently depending on how you're going. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Good, man. That's good.
To add to that real quick, it is one, what radio started doing, which they were a little late on, was when people started Shazamming everything, they started using those charts to get a rhythm of the city to build an algorithm from. Yeah, so they started doing that about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. And that actually changed. It started, I'm gonna give the guy, A+ actually started.
Shout out A+.
Yeah, he actually got into that and was like, you know what? This is the new thing. And he came up with a whole plan, and he introduced it to Radio 1 at the time. Because he wanted to pretty much curate or to direct the music in 5 markets at one time. And he came up with a plan.
Wow, that's awesome.
I gotta throw this in there too, because you were asking about St. Louis artists that have actually went platinum from streaming, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Lil Kel.
I am. Yes.
I literally only I became familiar with him when I met him, but we got a record that I just produced for him and another local artist. So if they put that out within a certain time, you know, hopefully, Lord willing, that'll be my first gold. But he has like 3 gold records, all from streaming, and 1 platinum record from streaming. And, you know, it's real, especially for him. But I also know a little bit behind the scenes of how much his team has put into it. Yeah. And they definitely use the 90-10 rule, which is putting 90% of your budget into marketing and 10% into the production, which covers everything from the beat and, you know, mixing and studio time. So his team is a little bit more, since his first song, Wrong or whatever, went platinum, his team, even before that, leading up to that, they were very intentional about pushing his sound, his looks, his how he collaborates, who he collaborates with, all that stuff. So even though he's from St. Louis and, you know, is still in town a whole lot, You know, his presence online is booming, and all the little kids know who
he is, man.
Yeah.
That's good. And speaking about St. Louis artists, we gotta take some time and pay tribute to somebody who we lost a few months ago, Huey. He definitely was one of the trendsetters. I know as a kid, I listened to all of them. You know, Huey, Jaquan, Nelly, Chingy. I mean, I listened to all of them. You know what I mean? So, as an artist, staying connected to your city, how important is that? And what casualties come along with that? Like, 'cause I feel like I'm St. Louis till I die. I love my city, even though it can suck sometimes. We all know that. I love my city to the death of me, man. And I couldn't see myself leaving unless my wife said we gotta go, then we gotta go, you know, she the boss. How important is it for artists who's reached mainstream success to stay connected to their city? And in what capacity? What y'all think about that?
Man, well, I got, it's a catch-22 with that.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22. You can be connected with your city, and the only downfall would be if you weren't ready, if you had the limelight or you actually built this facade of, yo, I'm the greatest since Nelly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you take that and they go to your head, that'll change your whole situation in the city.
Yeah.
To go off of what Ice Cube said a long time ago, he said he tried to stay in the hood as long as he possibly could. And he got to a point to where he could not stay in the hood because people started coming to his doorstep and dropping off demos and all that stuff. And people started getting mad at him. So he said he had to move out of there. I totally agree, because you got to understand, again, like I said earlier, the more attention you get, the more energy that's going to come your way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And with that happening, it makes it a conundrum for yourself to, like, I gotta stay in my city. And that's fine. You stay in your city.
Yeah.
Just move out to Wildwood or something. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You know? And then, of course, you still need to be, if you're going, like I said earlier, if you're going to be that artist, you got to be that artist.
Yeah.
If somebody's got to handle your business so you can continue to be the artist, that needs to happen. So you don't have to do everything. You can be boisterous, you can be seen, but you just have to, after so long, you have to pick and choose where you need to be or where you should go. Because you can't, after a while, you can't go anywhere. If you get as big as Nelly, you can't go anywhere.
Right.
You know, it's hard.
Yeah.
I would say even with the whole Nelly thing, I mean, if it's really important to rep where you're from, you know, when it pertains to Nelly, and if that's the case, Nelly needs to be rocking Austin, Texas, because that's actually where he's from, per se.
Yeah.
So as far as, you know, claiming where you're from, it is important as far as historically and culturally. But a lot of times people do better in cities that they're not from because people haven't heard them before, so they're received differently, or at least in a new way. I think it's important to have roots of some sort, especially if you're successful. Like, if you have the capital and the money to do something for your environment where you come from, like, you need to do that and make sure the money goes back there and that you're actually giving somebody else a chance or a stepping stool to where they can hopefully get to where you are or past where you are in a quicker time. Yeah. But as far as like claiming where you're from, like, that's cool. And it's important because people try to like put you in a box geographically. Yeah. But like I said with Nelly, like, people always associate him with St. Louis. So honestly, like, you can set up your shop anywhere and claim that, and that actually may work better for you in his case. Like, and actually being from Texas, it makes sense that he does all the country stuff, or did all this stuff. But
it does make sense.
You don't hear him talking about that on record on like Austin, Texas. Like, no, he claims St. Louis. So it's not even. I would say it is important, but it's really not if we're using even Nelly as a case study.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So, Emeara, you and Timothy being instrumentalists, knowing that we got some huge monarchs that came out of the city like Chuck Berry, Tina Turner, they both were Sumner High School alumni. How is it important to follow in the footsteps of those people who, like Chuck Berry, like even the Beatles, they crowned him the king of rock and roll. You know what I mean? is it important to follow in footsteps of those people who came out of your city, who had huge success, especially when it comes to catering your art? Is it important to cater your art or to look for a more original sound?
For me, I would say it goes back to that thing of knowing yourself and just really knowing who you are. Because for some people, you know, they might want to just be like Chuck Berry, you know?
Right.
For me, it was more of an original thing. Like growing up playing guitar, I didn't know nobody really who played guitar because I started in 8th grade. You know what I'm saying? Like it was kind of a rare thing that happened, you know? So for me, it was more like of an original thing. But once I start to get, you know, exposure to people who did this, you know, then that made me want to, you know, definitely sharpen my craft and, you know, like put work in. But as far as like sounding like the people or kind of mimicking them, not so much. And I feel like as creatives, we kind of already do that. Yeah. You know, when you listen to something so many times, you know, you kind of, it just kind of start to sound a little bit like it, you know. So I started to like kind of distance myself and like just really listen to my instructor and like what they were teaching me and kind of like just filling it out. Like, you know, I wanted to, because reading music, we got taught how to read music. But me, I was more of the like feeling.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to just feel the music. I didn't really want it to be like
so choreographed.
Yeah, you know. And so for me, it was like I love hearing about these people, especially like Jimi Hendrix and those type of people, like, and just seeing what they did, and it's definitely inspiring. And I think it's something to like run towards, but I wouldn't say I was trying to like, you know, be held to that standard. Right. Like, cause I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want. So for me, it was like, it just like really for me, kind of like knowing yourself, you know, and really what do you want, you know?
For sure. Great. What you think, Timothy?
I mean, I think it's important to know, you know, first of all, anybody that's successful, it's not a bad idea to patent whatever you do. Mm-hmm. It depends on what your role is. Like, I know for me, like I play guitar and I'm an artist, but from the production side, like I want to be able to be versed enough in enough genres and play it authentically enough to where if somebody wants a Motown sounding record, I can deliver it. So, you know, I do study specific things. Knowing the Chuck Berry song is kind of important for me because, you know, how big he is. He has a statue here. Yeah. You know, a lot of his family is still around, so it means a lot to them to see somebody else, you know, playing that stuff or able to play it. And honestly, when it comes to Chuck Berry specifically, that's just like knowing your history musically a little bit and being able to play some blues and kind of know where that came from. So, I mean, it's important to some extent, at least from my aspect, you know, from what I do. But if you're just looking, you know, to build your own sound, then you can be inspired from them, but you don't have to actually learn what they're playing per se. Yeah.
That's good. And they say success leaves clues. So, you know, I'm walking around trying to pick up the breadcrumbs. So we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap it up. But before we go, I want to ask this last question, and whoever decides to chime in will be dope. Just being here, being a part of the richness of our city for this time right now, with everything going on, having the connections that you all have, and just being super active. Where do you think the music scene for St. Louis is headed? Like, in what direction, whether it's a specific genre, whether it's a specific type of organization you feel like is going to flourish the most? But where do you see the music industry in St. Louis heading?
Well, I see, considering we're sitting on one of the buildings from Kranzberg Foundation, I got to give a huge shout out to them when it comes to St. Louis and their efforts. You know, I used to contract at the darkroom, well, I still do whenever they have events, which hasn't been for a while. But I used to contract doing sound at the jazz club, you know, because it's some cool, you know, it's cool money for what they pay contractors, but it's also an opportunity for me not to have to be on stage and play. And I can listen to jazz musicians live. And that really speaks to the richness of what St. Louis offers, because like, it's cool to sample, but if you can make the samples, I think it's cooler personally. But I mean, there's still jazz and blues is a huge part of St. Louis history, and considering they're keeping that alive and moving to the digital market where they're streaming weekly and giving artists residencies, which is so important for people that live off of it. You know, coming off of COVID, I was doing a residency at Casino Queen. I was there every Friday. So having that check every Friday and then not having it there, I can feel the difference a little bit. I got a Branson residency coming up. Well, it's being pushed to the end of the year. But, you know, residencies are a big deal. So Kranzberg has done a great job at like keeping artists working. Even in these times, they still give them platforms. So I think that's where it's headed with the Kranzberg Foundation doing what they're doing. As far as artists coming out and popping, I know a few artists, like I mentioned, Lil Kels. He's 3 times gold now and platinum. Hopefully the record that I produced for him goes gold. That'll be cool.
We're gonna pray for you, bro. We're gonna get it right.
I'm signing the papers today on it, so I'm at the split sheet. So that's a good sign. But I think that's kind of where it's going. You know, the internet makes everything a wild card, so it could go any direction. But I mean, obviously, it's going to go more digital than it ever has before. We're on a podcast right now. You know, as where before we may have done this as like a live event or something. And now we're not even thinking about that. We're thinking about building content that'll be around, hopefully past, you know, even when we're all gone. People can look back at this if they want to and see. You know, what was your name again? Emeara, like see what Emeara was doing before she did this, you know, or before she had, they can look back at those interviews and see. So I think technology is where it's going. Live music is also where it's going. People are getting back to understanding how important, you know, playing the guitar can make you feel versus having a DJ spin a record for you.
No doubt. Anybody else?
I think we've seen a lot of pivots in the music industry, I've seen anyway, to where, like you was talking about content-wise, people are developing more content. Technically, they should have been doing already. But now with you having to, you know, be in your own little space, to me, that if you have that drive in you, then this is like heaven for you. You know what I'm saying? It's heaven for you. Like, every day, like for me, just thinking about it, like if I was an artist and I was making music and I'm putting out a single or I'm putting out a record every week or whatever, like my mind is about to be wide open. I'm serious. It's like so many different places that I could just go and just be with 2 or 3 people and make a video for that particular point and let that fly. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of artists are going to start seeing it because you see now that they're doing all these award shows. This award, you know, the end of the award show season, everybody's doing their little, all right, we got a pre-recorded performance from rapper Dude X. You know, and next thing you know, he out here, he on the roof up here at ZACK, you know, doing his new single.
Doing his thing, man.
You know? And that's what I love to see. I just don't want people to get caught up in the old ways of doing stuff. Like, I always tell people, I said, the music industry is like a code, or it's like it doesn't have a real nucleus to where you can say, oh, this is the vaccine I could put in there and make it all better. No, that's not going to happen. I think Bill Gates will disagree with you on that one. Right.
That's a whole nother podcast. Man.
But to say that, there's no real formula to making any of the music work to a degree. It's just, like you said earlier, it's a lottery. It's a lottery to a degree, but if you can shrink those odds, if you have the discipline, if you have the infrastructure and the capital to make it happen.
That's it, man.
I also want to throw this in too. I think appreciation for, well, obviously content has already risen, but the appreciation for live music, I think will be different when people come back because you don't really know what you have until it's gone.
Very true.
So when people get back in those environments, it should be a refreshing element. And then also, I mean, obviously it's going toward, you know, more towards content because people that have never done content are forced to learn how to make themselves have the same impact they had live or similar or try to, and have it in the box and confines of a good quality mix and a good video, which is also kind of helping a creative industry for studios and stuff. So that's somewhere where my studio is starting to grow quite a bit is people booking out services to make sure their content sounds and looks good. So for those people, this is the time where you can flourish.
I don't think people will take live music for granted no more after this. Being in the house, man, and just being in the four walls, they start to close in on you. Just even taking time out to appreciate those times you were spending with family. Like when we first went into quarantine, and I'll wrap it up, like I hadn't seen my grandmother in like 3 months. She's 96, and I'm used to seeing her like at least once a week. So, you know, I think once quarantine is over and people are really not too afraid to come out, we'll take that time to appreciate live music, appreciate those social interactions, and just appreciate one another, man, because quarantine, it stripped a lot. And it also displayed a lot. Like, if you had that hunger in you, you probably produced 90 songs in quarantine. But if you didn't, you some areas of weakness were exposed in you.
Hey. You know? We're not going to say that's an area of weakness. For some people, some people live off being social. They like take for instance when Tupac was locked up in Rikers. He said he didn't write nothing.
This is true.
But when he came out and got back and went to California and he got out there and got crazy, man, he dropped like, I don't know.
A lot.
A lot.
That's true,
and so that happens to some people. You know what I'm saying? When they get, some people don't like being stuck in their regular day-to-day routine. Granted, they have a routine every day, but they like to be able to be free and roam about and absorb information and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Before we jump out of here, I want you guys to kind of shout yourself out, shout your channels out, your pages out. That way everybody who's listening right now can go follow you, support you, and just love on you. So if you guys don't mind, share your insight and your info, websites, social channels, all that good stuff.
Okay, I'm easy. Hey, I'm Finsta. Holla at me, I'm St. Louis, everywhere. AMPSTLOUIS. Just type it in, you got it.
All right, you can find me at whoistimothy.com. That's the easiest way to find me. I'm on a lot of platforms, but also go specifically check out my artist stuff, which is whoistimothy.us/videos. It has all 12 monthly videos and songs from 2019, all of them made by scratch, just by me within 30 days.
I'm Emeara. You can find me on Instagram at Emeara Shanice. You spell my first name Emeara. And you can find me on Facebook at Emeara Burns. Yeah, so check me out.
Guys, go check these guys out, man. They are doing some amazing work in our city, in our industry, and you will find something that's very volatile to what you're trying to do. Again, my name is Ntegrity. Grateful to be a part of this amazing episode of StitchCast Studio titled The Richness of the Music in St. Louis. Remember, integrity matters the most when you're all by yourself. Peace.
Thank you for listening. And last but not least, we want to give a very special shout out to the StitchCast Studio sponsors: the City of St. Louis Youth at-Risk Crime Prevention Grant of 2020, Stewart Family Foundation, and Missouri Foundation for Health. To learn more, visit storystitchers.org.
Funded by Missouri Humanities Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act. They say who that, but you already knew that. That be them story stitches. Story stitches, story stitches, story stitches, story stitches.